Hello, and welcome to episode 168 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner, myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how are we doing today?
Baruch Hashem, we're good. Baruch Hashem, we're good. You know how the weather yesterday was so horrible? What was going on in New Hampshire? Was it raining all day?
I wouldn't say all day, but we did have rain for a lot of the day. Yeah.
We had rain like the entire day. It was dark, it was raining, and today it's sunny. So it's so funny how from one day to the next, everything changes so drastically. Yeah. So when did I drive back? I drove back on Monday from New York. Spent Shabbos in Crown Heights for my father's first yahrzeit. My older sister from Israel and her husband were in Crown Heights. My two brothers who lived there. And my brother from Chicago came. And my sister from California and her husband came. And Chani and I were there. Very nice.
You need to be careful. Stop hitting the table. Every time you hit the table, it's rattling your microphone and it's sending noises through. It's also echoing.
So we spent Shabbos together. You know, it's like now that I always knew this was going to happen, that during the year when you're saying Kaddish, so you're like actively connecting to, you think, I'm doing for my father 3 times a day. I'm going to shul. I mean, I go to shul anyway, but I'm thinking about him because I have to daven for the Amid and this and that. Like it's almost like an extension of his life because I'm like actively doing stuff for him. Mm-hmm. And then when it stops, on the one hand, it's like a relief, because it's pressure. You got to make sure you have a minyan, the whole thing. Make sure you have a place to daven for the Amid and all this kind of stuff. You don't want to travel, whatever. Everybody knows that. It's not like I'm not like complaining about it. Just it takes up space, head space. But then, like it's something that's there. And then when it's over, like the year's over, I don't know. It seems like his presence sort of is missing. So now I'm thinking about how he's missing. So I'm thinking about it also. But there was so much. We found so many. My father, back in the day, people wrote letters. And my father and mother were separated after they got engaged. They were separated for a few months, and they would communicate by letters up and back. And there's other stuff that was happening in those years, in the early years. And it's a documentation of what was going on in their lives because of the letters that were there, and reading what people are thinking. It's amazing. So we talked a lot about that over Shabbos, and it was very powerful to be with my, siblings Friday night at one brother, and then Shabbos day by another brother. And I davened in the shul. My father, you 580, you were there where he used to live, where his apartment was. Mm-hmm. So there's a shul downstairs where he used to daven. So I wanted to daven there. I could have davened anywhere, but I was familiar with that place, and also it was meaningful to be in the shul that he was davening in. I sat down at the table where he used to sit, and somebody came over and said, "Oh, your father sits here." I said, "Yeah, dummy. Of course I know your father." I didn't say anything to him because he's being nice, honestly. But I'm looking at the guy. You think I'm not you think I randomly sat down here? Of course I knew that it was his, that's where he used to sit, at that table. And that's why I was there, because I was tapping into the energy. But it was weird davening being a chazan on Shabbos, because they were expecting, they used a certain style. I don't know what their style is, and I did my thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think anybody really complained too much. And then after davening, we had a little farbrengen. I didn't send them any money. Make a note of that. Yeah, Farbrengen, and a lot of people aren't in Crown Heights. Is on a skeleton scale because a lot of people, especially it was July 4th, so a lot of people went out of town. Just in general, summertime. The best time to visit Crown Heights is the summertime. Just the streets are not so packed, the stores, the shul, 7-7, everything. Just much is much quieter. It's like a whole different place. Like on Sunday, I went to the Mincha, like in the shul upstairs in 770. And most of the Bachram are away. They're like either in summer camps or they're on shlichus. They do summer shlichus. They go visit different communities. So I'm looking around like there's barely a minion there. And then Sunday morning, I davened at this shul on Kingston Avenue, right near the mikveh, between Crown and Montgomery. It's called Shane's Shul. And like we had 9 people. They had to go out. So I said, I'll go out and find somebody. It ended up being somebody who usually comes to shul. It's like 5 minutes late, and they start on time. So like, I'm thinking like so. It's so funny to be in Crown Heights and be like the 10th guy for the minyan. Okay, 10 minutes later, another guy came, but it's like you think Crown Heights. But it's Sunday morning also, like Crown Heights Sunday morning, 7:00. You could be the 10th guy for the minyan. Yeah, it was different. But yeah, things that we spoke about and things that there's things that if I have so many questions that if I would be able to talk to my father now and ask him all these questions, things I never thought about, but when you start start thinking about my parents' relationship when they were when they first met, and how things were, what were they thinking, how do things. My mother's not from a Lubavitch family. How did she adapt to the whole new reality? So these are things I would love to have to talk to her about. So now I'm sitting with my siblings and like trying to piece together based on the letters that were written up and back. Like my grandfather, who wasn't Lubavitch, my mother's father, to him this is a whole new world. Mm-hmm. And in fact, my parents got engaged in the month of Elul. I think it was the 15th of Elul. And Chayel, the 18th day of Elul, is the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. And the Rebbe had wanted my father to go to California. Then the Rebbe says to him, I'd like you to be in California for Chayel. So that's in 3 days. So he got engaged, and then he went to California. And he flew to California. He went from, from New York, I think from New York to Chicago, from Chicago to Texas, then Texas to California. 3 flights it took to get him there. There wasn't a direct flight from New York to California. So who knows how long it took. Could have taken like 2 days just traveling. Flights weren't that common, I guess, in 1950, 51. Mm. And so then so they're engaged. My mother's in New York. My father's in California. And the only way they can communicate is by letters. So they're writing letters up and back. Then my mother went to visit my father's family in Pittsburgh. And so there's letters that my mother wrote to my father about his family. Because my father had younger sisters who are now regal queens in Chabad, in Israel, in Italy. Just like listening. And my aunt actually came over Saturday night, and she has a lot to say. My aunt Gorelik from Italy, and my sister, who took all of my father's letters and made put them in binders. Just she's reading a letter that my mother wrote to my father about being with his family, and she was just sitting and listening. And, obviously, I don't think she remembered, things that like, how old was she? She was 10, 11, 12 years old. She had a younger sister than that. Just like interesting things. You never think of your mother as a teenager or 20 years old, whatever she was. and how she's dealing with ants that that and you respect now. But so that was very yeah. It's amazing, just amazing that. And these letters were there always. I guess I don't know. I guess parents keep those letters. They're personal stuff between the husband and wife. It's not like secrets or anything, but like it's a private stuff, so the kids don't creep in it. Now, now it's ours. So we look through it and we find all kinds of stuff. Very fascinating. Very fascinating. Yeah, and just the idea of so when I verbring on Shabbos, I told them a lot of stories about my father and the Rebbe, about myself, and it was like 15 guys were hanging out for I don't know, it was an hour and a half, I don't know, 2 hours maybe. And it was interesting, Crown Heights people. These are like, they don't. Some of them don't come from the Babbage family, so talking about things that happened to me 30 years ago when they were born, they were kids, and they weren't Lubavitch, so they weren't part of the whole thing. And they like guys said, "Oh, that was great, such a great Farbrengen." And I'm thinking to myself, this is my life, and this is a life that I lived. And for someone who didn't live through that, it's like it's completely like, it's new, it's like it's different, and it never heard such a thing, And to me, I'm like, "Do you remember the?" And they're like, "I wasn't born then." I'm thinking, wow, oh yeah, that's right. I remember distinctly talking to one of the shluchim here. I was talking, you remember that? You remember? And he like, I was born 10 years later. It's a weird thing to think of that. And then I think my father was like that. He would talk about those that you were there. He talks about those days. He lived with it. That was like his. It's like almost like the most memorable days in his life that he talked about were those years when he was, before he was 25, from when he's 10, 11, 12 till then. Those like the most impressionable times, and the times he was closest. He was then with the Rebbe the most, and after that he was always living somewhere else until he moved back to New York in the mid 60s. So those 10 years, he's living in different places. But the other thing I also realized was, it's so. I didn't say this to anybody. I'm going to say it to you now. Like the greatest gift that my parents gave me are my siblings. And I have 3 brothers and I have 3 sisters. And I just thought about it being Shabbos. Okay, one of my sisters from Israel wasn't able to come, but and because she wasn't there, so we were thinking about it the whole time. Those are there. Like this, the one that's not there. Anyway, but yeah, just like it's just so amazing. Of course, when I was a kid, brothers and sisters are nice to have around sometimes, but sometimes you wish they would just go away. But then when you realize it's really fascinating. Really fascinating that, yeah, it's just the greatest blessing. And if anybody's listening, you're getting married and you have 2 kids, don't be an idiot. Have more kids. It's like there's nothing more precious, more value than it. I know my father, looking back, when he got older, he was always talking about it. When he was a kid and the neighbor said to his mother, when they sent him from New Jersey to New York to go to yeshiva, and she said, "What do you want? You think your kid's going to grow up like your husband? Or you want him to grow up like your husband?" And she said something to the effect of like, listen, you could hope, which totally frustrated the person. Like, what are you doing? Send your kids off to become like rabbis? And she said, halavai, you're allowed to hope, aren't you? So that was her attitude. But yeah, and this my father with his siblings, just amazing. So I'm just saying that like the greatest thing is when you realize now that you have brothers and sisters, and there's a bond between siblings that I don't make you feel bad. The bond between siblings that doesn't, you don't have other people. The Rebbe, there's a whole talk from the Rebbe about the difference between the love between a husband and wife and the love between a brother and sister. And it's based on the thing when Avram was traveling, he said to Sarah, tell them you're my sister. So, right, because when we go down to Egypt, they would kill him if they wanted to get Sarah. Tell them you're my sister. And so, whatever, it's a whole discussion here, but basically, the Rebbe says, like, there's two types of relationships between a brother and a sister and between a husband and a wife. On the one hand, between a brother and a sister, it's natural. You don't have to do anything. You don't fall in love with your sister. It is. But on the other hand, like the love between a husband and wife is dynamic. It's like there's passion, intensity. I mean, it can go either way. It can be passionate in a positive way, or it could be, but it's dynamic. It's not like it's not steady. Brother and sister, it's steady. It's like, yeah, I like my brother and sister. They're great, but it doesn't there's no doesn't waver that much. So yes, but that type of thing of the comfortableness, you meet. I mean, I'm telling you things. Everybody understands this. You meet your brother and sister. Your whole life has been with them at some point. Not literally being with them. I've been in Boston for 40 years, but the connection is a calm, positive relationship. You could always, you can pick up a phone and you ask a question. You can tell somebody. You meet them. You just pick up where you are. And it's amazing. It's a support system. But here we are all together, like sharing this. I don't know. We didn't say it, but I think we realize that, like, we're like the next generation now. Like till now, my father could have told them things, and now we're telling his stories, which is, I guess, amazing and powerful. And by the way, sometime on Shabbos afternoon, I don't know how it came up. We were talking about the Pos-cast. Mary says, tell Seth we were talking about him. Make sure you tell Seth we were talking about him. So yeah, I'm not sure all my siblings listen, but I think there's a nice percentage.
Yeah.
As you know, we've heard from them, and we're going to hear from them again, I'm sure. But they listen to it, and to them it's make sure you tell Seth. But that was yes, and I think that's that thing, that have children. Getting married, anybody who's married, and talking about having children. Josh Kaplan, Josh Kaplan. Josh
He was one of our first guests, if not the first.
Oh, that's right. And yes, exactly. And he had a baby boy in the bris was yesterday.
Mazel tov.
At the Chabad house, yeah. And he has a daughter that's like a year and a half old or something like that. And the other one is like, and then his oldest, huh?
2 sons and a daughter now?
No, yeah, 2 sons and daughter. Yeah, the oldest is Yuri. He's like, can't be more than, how old is it? Like 4? Maybe even 3. I don't know exactly. And then he has these 2 little ones. Like it's incredible. Like whoa. But these kids are so lucky that they're so close to each other. Like just a couple years away, as they grow up, they'll have like built-in friends, built-in people they can relate to and talk to and share stuff with. It's really, and I know, being like the 5th of my family, so I had 3. My brothers are all older than me, and my older sister. And yeah, it was always great to have, they trailblazed the path in front of me, and I sort of followed in their footsteps to some degree. My brothers, anyway, went to same yeshiva. Yeah, later on, now it's even more to be able to. Hey, no phone calls now. To be able to have that connection and be able to talk about, to understand, like certain things. I was asking my siblings, we were talking about it, to understand my parents. Like, how did my mother get into this whole Lubavitching? And she got into it so much, and she even said that when she went to different neighborhoods, she felt there was a difference there. So this is funny. This thing, you can relate to this. So my sister from California was saying that she brought a group they bring groups once in a while to New York, and they brought a group that went to a different neighborhood, with a lot of Hasidic Jews, but not Chabad. And the woman said, like, it's not the same. See, when I walk in, like, say, in Borough Park or Williamsburg, it's all from people, Hasidic people, like, okay, that's fine. But from a person who's not so, more secular, is not a Chassid, we don't even realize this because we do it so naturally. So she was telling that they were sitting in a restaurant, not in Crown Heights, in the other neighborhood, and this lady brings in this woman with a carriage and a baby. Say, look, I found this woman in the street, and I brought her in to meet us, and the woman like was physically, she was like uncomfortable. And then in Crown Heights it happened, and this one woman came in and she was bubbly and she was interacting. You just said, like, when you walk in Crown Heights, people are eager to talk to you. They're happy to talk to you. Of course, that's the mindset. You take sex, not yet from Jews in Crown Heights. Like when we go in a group there and we start walking, anybody that meets us is so happy. Oh, where are you from? What are you doing? You walk in Williamsburg or Borough Park. They don't ask where you're coming, where you're going, and even the way they walk, like they're focused. They got to go where they got to go. And if people are coming by that are not dressed, the way they're dressed, they surely don't want to make any contact. They don't want to see them. And it's like I'm just saying that we do it so naturally. We're always looking to connect to people with a reason because we want to share what we have. But still, the nature of people in Crown Heights is you walk down the street, and when you go to Pegisha, and there's like 1,000 college students. Mm-hmm. Everyone in the street wants to talk to them and hawk with them. It's what they live for. You go to other neighborhoods, like, oh, who are these people? What do they want? Why are they here? What's wrong with them? So that was interesting. And that's when my mother picked up on that type of vibe. That, that there's something about Chassidus that just gives you a depth, a Yiddishkeit that you don't get otherwise. Yeah. And so I didn't, with the family, I didn't make any big speeches and things. I was very happy to sort of fall into the background a little and to listen. But then we went to visit, because during the year you don't visit the grave. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of reasons. I think one of them is because the mourning is so intense that when you're right there by the grave, you're going to express it. And for the soul, the soul, it's like when a child is mourning, the soul can't leave this world. The source says more connected. And the Neshama wants to rise up to heaven. It did its job. It wants to rise up. It doesn't lose the connection to people that are left here, but it doesn't want to stay. So when you're intensely mourning, that's why you don't go to the grave. So this was the first time we went. We went, all of us, and we said Kaddish. We said Tillim, and then we said Kaddish, and then my brother turns to me and said, "Well, make a speech, say something." So I didn't like prepare. I don't have to talk to my siblings, and there's some grandchildren there also. My sister's grandchildren were there. So what I said was, and I was thinking a lot about this, especially since we were talking so much about my parents and reading the letters and stuff. And I came to realize that, and my grandparents as well, that what's different in us, our generation, my brothers and sisters, and the generation of my father and grandparents, is that they made major changes in their life. My grandparents were in Russia, they came to Israel. My father was born in Israel, he came to America. His family moved from New Jersey to Chicago to Pittsburgh, and he moved. He's California, Chicago, Wisconsin, New Jersey, New York. Like a lot of unsettling things happening in life. Even though traveling from place to place is probably more normal than it isn't, but still, it was from one country to another country, one state to another state, and their connection to the Rebbe, and being Chassidim and being Shluchim and all that. But then I said, actually, I think that they were actually pretty. My father was like pretty. He was like us. He was like he was, it wasn't extra, it wasn't, I'll explain what I'm saying. He wasn't extraordinary. And the reason I say that is because, there's an expression, Rebbe used once at a Fabrengen, it says, you shouldn't say that the soul, the person passed away, that they're gone, they're far, they're away. Like, he passed on to the new stage of living, not in the body, but in the soul. And the same thing is also that it's not that they're like way beyond, unreachable. And I said, I was thinking like some of the things that I do today, when I remember as a child, my father was doing them. And I was wondering, what is he doing? Like we'd walk to shul around the block and he's always mumbling. Like, what is he mumbling? It's not davening, is he? Now I realize when I'm sometimes driving to shul, I'll say karbanis, the pre-haidu stuff. Because, I know by heart, or I look on my phone at the red lights. And I'm thinking like, yeah, that's what my father's doing as he's walking to shul. So, and other things that you just do sort of because not consciously being trained to do it, but having seen it happening constantly, it grows on you. And then you start doing these things and you realize, well, why am I doing these things? Because that's why my father used to do them. And so the point being that we don't want, we're not pushing him away and making him greater than we are, but like bringing him onto our level. Like I was saying, I always remember there was a Gemara on the dining room table. I don't remember, I saw my father learning it, obviously, but I don't remember sitting for hours and hours. Probably when the time he sat down to learn, I was going to sleep already, as a kid. But there was a Gemara on the table. And so now my Rambam is there, and he put a napkin into it, even till, even the last day, there was like, his Gemaras in the shelf had like napkins in it with placeholders. And now I see him doing the same thing too. Meaning to say that, think about his life as being on the same level as my life, but all the things I can learn from how he did things and how he was careful about things and how he treated other people. And I remember that moment, giving this little talk in the cemetery about Baruch Silverstein and Moshe Schwartz, who had come to our house. I forgot it even happened. It was happened, 45 years ago. That he was a kid that I knew in Miami, and he had no place to go for Pesach. So he said, "Come to me, come to Borough Park." I don't even remember that he was there, and he remembers it. But my parents' house was open and welcomed them. So they think that was the idea, that like don't lift them up too high on a pedestal that you can't reach them. Think about them, the practical things that they did and how they did them, and emulate those things in our lives. So that's that's what I was thinking. This is what's going on. So our parents will stay with us, and like Mendy has a daughter named Esther Tirtz, my mother's name, and they had a baby. Their son was a couple of months old, and has my father's name, and which is extremely weird. Like Mendy showed me an envelope addressed to Yehuda Leib Posner. I've seen envelopes like that addressed for 60 years. But no, now it's not to him, it's to my, it's like, But there's a certain element, it says that Hashem gave a gift to people. It's called forgetfulness. What does it mean? Not to forget, that things that happen that are so emotionally powerful, as time goes on, you don't forget them, but it doesn't have the same energy, and so you're able to deal with it more on an intellectual level, and that's how we go through life. But at the same time, the positive things you want to accentuate, and we don't want to forget them, and want to live with them, and want to have them inspire us and move forward in an amazing way. So what's going on? In 2.5 weeks, we're having our New York City get-together. And then I just launched, every year there's a raffle during the summertime, fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And like it's organized by Chabad on campus, and it runs like for 2 months. 1 week, and next week is the deadline. So I opened it up. Anybody wants to support the Chabad House can do that, chabadboston.org/raffle. Buy your tickets, you may be the big winner. Oh, when you buy a ticket, you're a winner because you're supporting the Chabad house. You also have a chance to win $18,000 or a trip to Israel for two, all the other prizes. But every ticket you buy makes you automatically a winner. Okay, Hashem should help that we should do all we have to do from this world, and my Father and all the holy souls in heaven should do all they can to do from the world above. Together we should be united with the coming of Mashiach in this world. These 3 weeks of mourning we transformed into joy, and we'll celebrate in the third Beis HaMikdash.
Amen. With that, thank you so much for listening to episode 168 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.